What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Nick Underhill, neworleans.football is the site. Man. For a lot of Sunday, Nick, the Saints looked like Achilles. However, in the end, in the same way, it is that glaring weakness that ends up doing them in. It's what we've been talking about for 6, 7, 8 months this offseason. At the end of the day, Nick, this offensive line drastically costs the New Orleans Saints not just a win, but also maybe a couple, as Derek Carr is going to be out for about a month now.
Yeah, the offensive line is ass right now, man. Like it's a huge issue. Like they got to fix that. I don't know what they do. Like I don't know what the solution is. It just seems like they're out of sorts. Like the blitz pickup stuff isn't working. They're out there with max protect. They can't max protect. They can't win one-on-ones. It's very weird right now. And before when Carr went down, he was on pace to take 68 sacks this year.
Crazy.
And then he had been hit a dozen times to that point. Like it's just. That's unsustainable. You can't just let your quarterback be back there and just have him getting the hell beat out of him every single week. And I don't know what the fix is. I don't know how they get better players. I don't know what you do at this point. I mean, there's just so many resources invested in that. You got a first-round pick, a first-round pick, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a first-round pick on the bench, all since 2017. Like you have committed the resources to this position and you can't block. Like it's unbelievable at this point. So I thought it was interesting after the game. Dennis Allen said what they're teaching needs to be looked at. So that kind of seems to be like a little bit of a shot thrown at Doug Marrone. I don't really know how else to interpret that. Just kind of, hey, like we got to be better prepared. We got to teach the right stuff. The weird thing is like they come into these games and they're terrible blocking in the first half, and then they get better in the second half. So, I just don't. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me, but they got to figure that out because it's unsustainable. And it doesn't matter if it's Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, Jake Haener, like whoever it is, if they're back there and they're blocking the way they are, next guy's going to get hurt. Then the next guy's going to get hurt. Then Carr's going to come back. He's going to get hurt again. So they got to figure something out or that's going to derail the whole season.
And it's not only in pass protection, Nick. That's a troublesome thing. It's also in run blocking. That like you turn on the tape and there were some poor run fits as well. So yeah, the resources you put into it. We've seen these players play better at times, but it's not just protecting the quarterback. I mean, they can't run the football right now. And everything the running backs are making, it's because it's on their own. There's not a lot that, like, if I'm watching the tape, I don't know where to tell the running back to go.
Yeah, it's the truth. The holes aren't there. It's failing unbelievably right now. And it's just across the board. And look, I know a lot of people were like pointing out the play, like, oh, like where Carr got hurt, he should have dumped off to Jimmy Graham, like over the middle for 4 yards. It's 3rd and 9. He thinks Kendre Miller picked up the blitz. If Kendre Miller picks up that blitz, he steps up in the pocket. Maybe then if he sees Ryan Ramczyk blowing the block on the right edge, like then he gets rid of the ball then at that point. But like he thought he was going to be able to step up in the pocket. I thought it was the right decision. The one thing I hate is like when people go through and it's just like, well, the result didn't work, so the decision was dumb. Like, but if you look at the evidence, like the thought process there is that, okay, he should have been able to trust that. He should have stepped up. He could have stepped up and avoided that coming off the right edge. But it just kind of like all collapses at once and it's on him. And it's just a hard way to live, man. And yeah, they couldn't run the ball in the second half. Like if you could block just even like a little bit, you win that game because you can run the ball to run out the clock. And man, it's frustrating to watch it because they've put so many resources into this group. They have a coach that was a head coach in the NFL twice. Like that should be the best group on the whole team. Instead, you got Trevor Penning, who's, getting a little bit better, but then it's just like, now you're watching Jalen Collins and Philly just dominate people. And like, that was the trade-off. It's just like, man, this is a hard way to live. Like your quarterback's hurt because you can't protect him. This other guy looks like a Hall of Famer in the making already. And it's just like, it's just not working. So, I mean, that's something they got to figure out in a hurry. I have no idea what the fix is because it's just like a failure across the board right now.
So, yeah, it sucks, Nick, because you're right. It's not just them being bad. It's the opportunity cost of who you could have had and you got them. So, and it's almost impossible to process and get over. And so, like, kind of in that same vein, How do you move on? And as a fan, I guess you don't have to, right? But it's what you need to try to do for your own sanity. But how do you move on from blowing a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter in a game where you could have gone into Green Bay and started this season as one of the NFL's lone remaining 3-0 teams?
And it's not just 3-0. Like, if, your quarterback doesn't get hurt, you're probably 4-0. You're playing Tampa this week at home, a very winnable game. Like, you're off and running at that point, and you could almost collapse. You start out 4-0, you can collapse a little bit in the middle and still be fine, like, at the end. So they had such a great opportunity there. Look, I hate to say this, but, like, I think it was just kind of like the human element of it. Like, Derek Carr goes down, and it just kind of felt like everybody kind of just lost something. Like, the whole edge, the whole team just kind of disappeared, and it just seemed flat after that. And that injury looked so much worse than it turned out to be. Like, just kind of the way it played out, it looked terrible. Like, I'm shocked that it's just an AC sprain. The people around Carr are shocked that it was just an AC sprain. Like, the immediate response was like, it's not going to be good. It seems really bad. He goes to the hospital. It turns out not to be anything super crazy. But, I think they just collapsed. I mean, you took the air out of the building. Maybe you pump that back in this week. You have a very winnable game still. I think you can beat Tampa Bay. I've been told not to write Carr off yet, but I'm kind of writing Carr off for this week. It just kind of seems insane for him to be able to play. But, like, maybe it's a 1 week thing. Like, he's played through a lot of stuff throughout his career. Seems like this week's going to be a little bit tough. But I think you can win this game with Jameis, but you got to find a way to get everybody, bought back in and rally. And I think getting Alvin back in the building gives you a little bit of a pick me up coming into this. But like Jake said, man, like, you gotta block for this guy, or it doesn't really matter. Like, if Kendrick Miller can't run through people, like, Alvin's not going to do much better. So they got to just figure something out, open some holes, find a way to make life a little bit easier, win a game with Jameis, and maybe you get Carr back after that.
I was about to say, I mean, I think the last thing you want to do is try to rush Derek Carr back, and if he gets hit on that same shoulder again, I mean, that's why you pay Jameis Winston the money you pay him to be the backup, right?
Yeah, and look, I think they can win this game with him. It's going to be a test. Like, the Tampa defense looks pretty solid. Like, I think it's going to be it's not an easy game, but I think you can draw up a game plan and be kind of safe. The way they played it last year, where it was, like, very conservative and shots down the field. I know everybody, like, hated that game plan because the Hail Marys or whatever, the shot plays down the field, the go routes, didn't work. But I think that's the way I would go back in this game. I try to minimize risk, play it very, very safe. Hopefully you can block a little bit. Hopefully you can buy enough time for James to take them shots down the field. I think Chris Olave is better served to make contested catches down the field than he was a year ago. So I think maybe that's one way to go about it. You have Rashid Shaheed this time for this game. So I would approach it almost the same exact way. I would try to run the ball. Hopefully you can run it, take shots down the field, and maybe you steal one relying on that defense.
Greg Lamont says 2021 lost Jameis after week 4, 22 lose Jameis after week 2, 23 lose Carr after week 3. Yikes. Man.
It's crazy.
That's a bad run there. Nick, we're talking to Nick Underhill. neworleans.football is the site. Sign up today, y'all. They're doing such great work. It's not just, very well-written articles, but podcasts, video content daily. Brooke, Mike, Nick, everybody does a great job. The entire production staff. Go sign up today. Nick, are you sensing any frustration out of this defense in terms of the offense not carrying their weight? And I know that they're saying the right things, but I can't, and maybe I'm reading it too much, but I can't help but feel like there's an underlying tension of, we can't allow 18, but we gave up 18. Like, if you're not, if you're giving up sub 20 in the NFL, you should win what, 80% of the time, like 75%. Are you sensing any frustration from the D?
So I would say after the first 2 wins, it was like a point of pride, and then when they lose, there seems to be a little bit of frustration after, a loss. But when they're winning, they're kind of like, we're those guys, like, we can do this. It doesn't matter. Like, we like playing with the pressure. We like being on the razor's edge, like, bring it. We want to win these games for the team. And then when they lose, it's just kind of like, we gave up 18, it's a tough way to live, man. But I think they kind of felt it on this one a little bit too. Like, they collapsed a little bit themselves, 18 points in the fourth quarter. And I think even if Groupie hits that field goal, I'm not convinced they win the game. Like, there was still over a minute on the clock. I think they're coming back the other way and probably getting in field goal range, just kind of the way that game was going. It felt very 2022-ish. Like, as soon as they started scoring points, you're looking at it. I even tweeted, I'm like, they're going to have to score again not to lose. And
it had an inevitable feeling of dread, just slowly but surely building to the point where we all talked about it. You knew Groupie was going to miss. Like it was so weird. There was no doubt in anybody's mind that he was going to miss that kick. I think everybody would have been shocked if he had made it. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Just the whole game was moving that direction.
Yeah, it was just very much like, here we go. And look, I think that's the difference with Carr and not Carr. And it's not a commentary on Winston. I just think like Carr kind of gives the confidence, like in that type of situation, like when they're winning like that and it's close and things start to go wrong, you still feel okay about their situation. And I think his way he was playing out right now was the floor. And I think everybody else's ceiling is kind of Carr's floor. Like Carr's floor was as good as they could have been last year. And I think with anyone else, it's a little bit different. Like, I don't know how much better the offense was going to get. And like, let's not overstate things. Like the offense hasn't been very good with Derek Carr in there. It's been a grind. Like it doesn't look good. There's no fluidity to it. There's no rhythm. It's just kind of like they're getting there, but you kind of trust them to get them there. And you kind of feel like it was going to get better. You know, I don't know what it's going to look like without him. And, you know, hopefully at some point he's fine again, because it's just, I don't know. It just takes the breath out of everything with him being on the ground like that. It just sucks, man. Like it's just a tough way to start the season. It's like, here we go again. It's just like the same story playing out year after year after year. And, you know, hopefully when he comes back, they're protected and it doesn't happen again.
Well, I mean, yeah, the thing that's frustrating is because you have weapons. You have Chris Olave. You have Mike Thomas playing at a pretty high level, doing exactly what he needs to do. You have Rashid Shaheed that can make plays. Like, you have these weapons. You have Jimmy Graham scoring a touchdown. Like, it's hard to not blame the offensive line and the protection on a lot of these things. But even like Juwan Johnson, like I was expecting him to be, you know, an important piece of this offense. They hadn't got him going yet. So like, it's frustrating, Nick, and you know this because you have the guys. Like, you have the weapons. It's just like you're not putting it all together.
Yeah, look, I think some of it's the play calling too. Like, they haven't completed a pass over 10 yards over the middle of the field. Like, that's where Juwan Johnson should be making his living, like going up the seams, doing stuff like that. They just aren't attacking those parts of the field. So, you know, I think it's a little bit of everything. I don't think they found their identity. I don't think Carr was fully settled in. And, you know, it's tough when you can't block. Like, you have to be able to block to execute plays. You should be able to get a 9-yard out down the field, like, in – have it be completed, the route running before pressure's on. Like, and they just can't do these things right now. So it's just very, very hard to live that way. But I think it's a little bit of everything. And, you know, they gotta do a better job of finding an identity for sure, though. Like, I do think some of it is a little bit play calling. Like, it's been very, very conservative. I don't necessarily blame it in the way some of these games were played. I'm not sure I would have been, you know, pressing down on the gas when the defense is playing like that, and you can win these low scoring games. Just be safe, get to the finish line, and, you know, figure it out. But I'm not loving
defensive minded head coach strategy of you there, Nick.
But look, I mean, it worked. It was working though. So like, I'm okay with it until you figure it out. But like, at some point, like, you got to start, you got to be able to punch the gas and, you know, go 85 to pass somebody at some point. I'm not asking them to go 100 because I don't think that's going to be the Saints with this coaching staff. But like, you got to hit 85 at some point.
Where do you think groupies mentals are at after that? Because like, that was the big concern going in. And so when you get your first opportunity and you kind of, you know, you fumble it, the kicking is so mental. It's so insane. How do you think he handled it?
We're going to see, man. Like, it's tough to say. Like, he seems like a very confident individual, but like, you aren't going to show anybody anything else. I kind of liked how he owned it after the game. You know, he was just kind of standing tall and, you know, took it on the chin, answered all the questions, seemed to answer them the right way. But, you know, you kind of got to see him go out there and respond against live bullets. He handles all the pressure situations all throughout camp. So that kind of gives me a little bit of confidence in him. Like, every single day, you know, he's kind of under the guillotine and he was the guy that had to beat out the incumbent. So we'll see how he responds to this. But yeah, it's definitely not what you want to, it's not what you want to see. It's not the right way to start out. So, we'll see. We'll just kind of see how he responds to it.
Then real quick here, Nick, what do you think about Kendre Miller's first action?
I thought I saw some good things, but it's just tough when you have nowhere to go. I kind of liked how he ran. I liked how he moved, and then it's like 2 yards. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's no blocking there. So I thought he was okay, but you know, I think he's going to keep getting better. But you gotta open some holes for him. Like, let the first contact be like 3 yards down the field and see if he can break it. You know, that's a much better way to live than having first contact at, you know, 1 yard.
Nick Underhill covers your New Orleans Saints at neworleans.football. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.